Charlotte, and you are watching The Ugly Atheist. Today's episode, I came across a Reddit post under the r/mi the ahole. I don't know what phrase to use in place of the curse word, but maybe ahole is okay because it sounds foreign. I don't know. This one's more of a would I be the ahole? Would I be the ahole if, let me pull up the article, or the post, the article. Would I be the ahole if I fired our sitter over religion? I'll put the text up on the screen so you can follow along. But I found this one interesting because it's this is an older post. It's a very common occurrence. This has to do with a married couple and their disagreement over how important religion is in their family, or how important it is to protect their child from religion. So I'll get right into it. So here's the background. My husband and I are both agnostic. Our child is 2 years old. We've agreed to introduce her to the cultural and historical aspects of major religions when fit. For example, when we walk past a mosque and she gets curious, not telling her anything complicated as of now because, she's 2. And save the doctrines for when she's older. Our babysitter, I'll call her Emily here, has the patience of a saint, is very helpful and very religious. When Emily mentioned her religion during our interview, I made it crystal clear that we will respect that, but I also expect her to respect our wishes regarding religions. I gave her some guidelines like no doctrine-embedded stories. For example, we're all damned because our ancestors decided to eat an apple. No teaching of doctrines, etc. Emily understandingly obliged, or so we thought. One day, I came home early and caught her telling my child the story of creation of the world. I explained to Emily in private that it contradicts what we've been telling her, dinosaurs and such, and reminded her of our agreement. She apologized. I dropped it at that. Yesterday, I found out she's been reading to my child religious books for kids that basically tell their readers to pray to and obey some deity. Not cool. Now, I want to fire Emily because of the religious teaching behind my back. But my husband disagrees. He thinks what's important here is that Emily takes good care of our child. And considering that she spends at most 20 hours a week with her, it shouldn't be too hard for us to undo the religion part. I told him that a friend's child came home calling their parents sinners after 2 Sunday school classes. So 20 hours a week isn't as trivial as he thinks. He says I'm overreacting and would look really bad if I fire Emily over this issue. Plus, our child has bonded with her already, so replacing her would do our child a disservice. I want to respect my husband's opinions, but I'm starting to resent Emily. So Reddit, would I be the ahole if I fired her? So we have the very common, as I mentioned earlier, very common disagreement pertaining to religion and its introduction to children, what age is appropriate. So we have the culprit here is Emily, who is a devout Christian. So she had been talked to beforehand, before she was even hired, about the indoctrinating of their child. I think the parents have a valid point, and I don't think Emily should have betrayed their trust because she agreed. And I recall discussing something similar a few episodes ago where I think it was talking about one of the commandments about giving false testimony, where it seems to me that in the furtherance of the kingdom of God, it's apparently okay to lie. I guess that would be considered a white lie or an excusable lie. But Emily clearly lied in her interview and probably had every intention of secretly or under the guise of, oh, I didn't know, it's not that bad, indoctrinating this child because she probably felt that the environment was not a godly environment in terms of it wasn't religious. It wasn't these don't seem like bad parents at all. They seem like very good parents, very cautious parents, very careful. So this is a tricky subject. So Emily, I think, is at fault here, of course. But the question is whether or not she should be fired. And again, this is another common issue regarding the introduction of a female into a household, an additional female into the household. This goes back to our evolutionary past, where it's expected that introducing a young female into a household is going to be seen as a threat by the existing matriarch or the woman head of the household. And it's going to be seen as, it's going to appeal to the man's primeval nature, if you will, or evolutionary nature, to protect females and to, on some level, view her as a potential mate. And I'm not saying that they consciously think these things in this family. I mean, the husband probably has like zero conscious intention of doing that, anything with this babysitter. But I think his wanting to keep her around is the bedrock of that sentiment is probably evolutionary in nature. And I'm not faulting him for that. I don't think it's necessarily pertinent to this scenario, but the husband has a point where, and I think I'm siding with the husband on this, because his point is that any indoctrinating that Emily is doing to the child can be undone, but this is the tricky part. For the family's culture to succeed in the child's life, they need to be very careful not to be abusive parents or create disdain in their child. I know that's partly unavoidable when the child's going through their teen years, but if the childhood is generally happy and the parents spend a lot of time together, this is the key, where the dad and mom and the child have to spend a lot of time together, a lot of playful time, a lot of family building time. And then, as the Bible says, train a child in the way he should go and he will not depart from it. So if you train the child to think critically and to think analytically, and you do so with love, and the child's going to build a intellectual arsenal in his mind of how to address or how to identify fairy tales and mythology. And if the child does stray to join some kind of religious thing for a while, it would just become merely a phase. And then I want to make it clear that this is not a guaranteed recipe, but it is what seems to be the norm in regard to keeping your family culture intact long term. And that's sort of the goal here, that the mom is not seeing this as, she's looking more immediate. Her focus is more immediate, like, okay, this Emily's a threat, let's get her out. But the husband seems to be, whether knowingly or not, thinking long term, and hopefully will bolster that long term thinking with actual action towards solidifying the family's social cohesion, building memories, being there for all the important events in the child's life, and making the child feel loved, accepted, and nurtured and cared for, as well as disciplined when needed and instructed away from destructive behaviors. So you don't want to spoil the child at all. The wife brings up an interesting point also to counter the husband's point, where she has a friend whose child came home from just 2 Sunday school classes, so 2 weeks worth of Sunday school, calling parents sinners. My opinion on this is that this child has probably, it looks like, from the sound of it, it sounds like they've not been to a church before, so this is a brand new experience. They're learning new things, meeting new people, so they're naturally going to recite the new things they've learned when they come home to their parents. So I would advise that in situations like that, you don't overreact as a parent. You kind of laugh it off and say, "Oh, that's interesting," or, to tell me more. Get the kid to talk, and then perhaps even level with the kid on their own terms. Like, well, so what do you think about that? Do you think that is that true? Is that what other things do they teach you about in Sunday school? So I would see it as an opportunity to teach the child some critical thinking skills, and that would be a good opportunity to show them the difference between reality and fantasy. But at the same time, you don't want to beat the kid over the head with it, or start getting too philosophical, or just getting too nuts with it. But basically just invite them to kind of think it through, and then leave it at that. And then when they go back to Sunday school, maybe and the chances are great also that they're probably saying some of the things that they've heard at home from you and your spouse to the Sunday school class. I remember my mom took me to a CCD class, I think, or some kind of Catholic thing when I was little, and I didn't know Catholics didn't believe in evolution. And I grew up where my dad, who was a physicist and a scientist, talked about evolution from time to time, and so I thought everybody knew that. And when I got into this class, and they were reading about, I think one of the lessons for that particular day was about the creation, or Adam and Eve or something. And so I spoke up about evolution. I think it's just a natural thing when a familial culture clashes with the outside world. There's going to be some momentary confusion, and as long as the parents are there to clarify things for the kid, and I think that's all you can ask for. And if the child's intelligent, which most kids are, they'll be able to sort things out as they get older. And if you really don't want your kid to be indoctrinated at a young age, then I would think that the parents probably went upon hearing that Emily was a Christian at the beginning of their interview, probably should have said, well, we're going to look for someone else, but thank you for your time. But the fact that they let her in, maybe they were thinking, well, we'll broaden our child's cultural horizons, expose them to things like different ways of thinking, so that they kind of invited that potential problem into their house, and then it looks like it became a problem. You and your spouse agree on an age where your child is okay to be exposed to these different things, and just try to keep religious indoctrination, or whatever the philosophy is that you don't want your child exposed to, limited in their life. And then when they reach that age that you both agreed on, then you can, if they like, hey, my friend from school wants me to go to church with them, like, yeah, okay, go ahead. Because by then you've equipped them with the tools to know the difference between fantasy and reality. The other thing to watch out for, though, is that a lot of Christianity, a lot of the preaching is done with appeal to emotion. So it's one thing, it's important to train your child to think critically, but you also have to make sure they understand what emotional manipulation is and how that works, and give them examples, and so they can be aware of when they're being manipulated and being swayed emotionally to believe something or to do something, because emotions are significantly more powerful than intellectually analyzing a statement. The idea of burning in hell for eternity is a very frightening proposition, and that's a supercharged appeal to emotion. So this is and something with that strong of an emotional charge is going to be difficult to rationalize. You can think rationally, like, that sounds ridiculous. There's no way you can burn forever, or however you rationalize it. The emotional appeal will override that. And it's like, well, what if it's true? There's that dreaded what if that's always plaguing our minds. It's the Pascal's wager, where it's a better gamble to think that it is true than to risk the consequences of you being wrong and ending up burning for eternity or something like that. So parents have their work cut out for them, in other words. That's sort of my takeaway on this. The world is the world. People believe crazy things. So if you can equip your child to how to recognize, manipulation, how to recognize, reality from mythology, then you will have gone a long way in equipping your child or children to navigate the world effectively and healthily, and to ultimately make good decisions in life. So I might try to do some more of these in the future, but I'll leave that one there for now. So I appreciate you watching. Hopefully you like this kind of content. If so, please like and subscribe. I am Charlotte. You are watching The Ugly Atheist. Thank you so much.